Good morning, everybody. I hope everybody had a great night. Today we're going to talk about resistant to boundaries. I'm going to do this into parts because there's a lot of talk about resistant to boundaries and how you can set boundaries and what you can do to set your boundaries. So I'd like to first off start by talking about why we resist boundaries. We've talked about this before in previous videos, but about the necessary of boundaries and their wonderful value in our lives. Boundaries is very important. So then you can feel respected. People should not cross any boundaries because you want to have that respect. You don't want to feel disrespected. You don't want to feel icky. But sometimes it's hard. Sometimes people do step over the boundaries, and then you need to reset the boundaries and be firm about it and stick with your decision. Life without boundaries is basically a life that you don't have a life. Is a life that's not at all intact because you need boundaries. You don't want someone to come into your house, start eating your food when they can go home and eat their own food unless they ask you and you set a boundary. Yeah, you can have that. Or they want to borrow your car, so instead, while you're sleeping, they just take your car for a ride, whatever it is. Having boundaries is very, very important. So I got my notes here, and I'm going to read a little bit of my notes. So like I said, life without boundaries is no life at all. That's a pretty powerful statement right there. How many of you have boundaries? How many of you have boundaries but allow other people to step over boundaries? Establishing and maintaining boundaries takes a lot of work, discipline, and most of all, desire. You need to want to set the boundaries. The driving force behind boundaries has to be a desire. We usually know what is right thing to do in life, but we are rarely motivated to do it unless there's a good reason. I kind of don't believe that. I believe, regardless if there's a good reason or not, you need to have a boundary. Because you don't want to get hurt mentally, physically. You want to have respect, whether you're in a relationship, family, friends, whoever it may be. They need to respect your boundaries, and you need to be firm about it. Who tells us to set and maintain boundaries is certainly the best reason. But sometimes we need a more compelling reason than obedience. That is true, right? That is true. We need to see what is right is also good for us. What is good for us? Life is good for us. Life is too short to be taken advantage of. And we usually only see the good reasons when we are in pain. So pain motivates us to set boundaries. That doesn't make sense to me. And why does that not make sense to me? Because why do you have to be in pain in order to set boundaries? Why can't you set boundaries when you're feeling good? I think that's the best time to set boundaries. You should always write a list of boundaries that you want. Share them with the people around you. Give them the list, read them the list, and tell them the consequences if it comes down to it. Some people are really, really resistant to boundaries, to where they will hear you, but they don't hear you. It's kind of like selective hearing. So you kind of like need to reinforce it. So that could be a challenge, right? Even with the desire for a better life, we can do the work of boundaries for another reason, which is war. We don't want war. We want peace. We want harmony. We want relaxation. We want to be able to come home to a retreat, not arguments, not coming home to our significant other who could be drunk and possibly violent. We want to come home to peace. We don't want war. We want peace. That's what's going to make us happy. There will be disputes. You need to make a decision. Are you tired of it? Did they step over your boundaries? Then you need to determine, what are you going to do? Are you going to stay with the relationship, whether it's a friend, family, or a significant other? It doesn't have to be a significant other. It could be a family member. You could be living at home and they resist to boundaries. So what are you going to do to set that boundary to make sure that they respect your boundary? What's the consequence of it? Is there a consequence to boundaries when you're living at home? The easy answer to that is to move out on your own, make your own rules. Then you have the control. Sometimes it's hard when you live with family because they don't always respect your boundaries. They think that they know what's best for you, which isn't true. Or your significant other. Maybe your significant other had a bad upbringing and it's trickling over onto your relationship. And you set boundaries. I don't want to talk about this, or I don't want you to be doing this. I want you to talk to me more about this in a calmer way. I want you to have a cool off period. I mean, if you go to a car dealership, there's a big old sign that says cool off period. So why can't we apply that to life? Cool off at home. Go for a walk. Meditate. Take a deep breath. Ask your significant other to do something other than cause negativity in the house when you want to try and make it pleasant. There can be losses in the relationship, which is horrible. Because what will happen is a breakup. You will break up. You lost your significant other. Or you move out because your family hasn't respected your boundaries. So there's a loss right there. Now, when you live on your own, the important thing to set a boundary is, hey, if you want to come over, call to make sure I'm home, to make sure I'm available. That is a really good boundary. If they just come on by, stop on by, do what they want, they're not respecting your boundaries, are they? That's why it's important to make sure you know what you want and set those boundaries. Write them down in a journal, reinforce them, make sure that your significant other, family, friends, whoever it is, knows your boundaries, and tell them the consequences if they don't listen. It's that simple. It's not that simple. It's challenging, and sometimes it does hurt inside. Because you don't want to do that to your family. You don't want to do that to your significant other. But you know what? At the end of the day, you're going to feel better because you're going to feel respected. If somebody, like I said, for example, takes your car out while you're sleeping, is that really okay to do? No, it's not. Unless you are okay with that. That's one of the boundaries that you need to set. It is not okay to take my car out when I'm sleeping. You need to ask me first. And if I say no, the answer is no. And it's okay to say no. And some people might turn and say, I can do what I want. How are you going to react with that? That's something good to think about. How are you going to react to that if somebody turns on you and says, I can take your car out. I'm just going up the street. It doesn't matter. You have your own car. Why can't you take your own car? Do you see what I'm saying? This is not allowed. If you have to hide your keys, which you should not have to, then the question for me to you is the relationship, whether it's family, friends, or significant other, worth it if they're not respecting your boundaries? I would say no. Let me tell you a quick story. I was in a relationship. Okay. He wouldn't pick up any of his stuff. I got tired of it. It's just simple as 1, 2, 3. I happen to be very picky, a little bit of OCD, and I have high expectations for certain areas in life. When you have dirty clothes, all you have to do, lift up the hamper, drop your clothes in, and shut the lid. Not that hard. But for some reason, for some people it is. They don't want to do it. They're not motivated. They don't have the desire to do what to ask of you, but they still love you. But they want you to do the job. They don't care about your boundaries. So the question is, do they really love you? Even though they say that they love you. That's how I look at it. So I got tired of it and I said, goodbye. I'm done with you. Because that is not okay. I mean, it can go deeper and deeper and deeper, and I can sit here all day talking about my situations with that one person. But I'm not going to. I'm just giving you an easy, quick example. It's a simple boundary. Put your dirty clothes in the laundry basket or in the washer. Who does the laundry? Does he do the laundry? Does your family do the laundry? No. I do the laundry. So then I created this thing where you have a bucket, you put it on your washer or dryer. Once the bucket gets full, and the way it gets full is if there's stuff around the house that is bothering you and nobody is respecting your boundaries by picking up their stuff, it goes inside the bucket. Whatever is inside that bucket, whether it's money, socks, underwear, shoes, whatever it is, backpacks, books, it's yours. You throw it out once the bucket is full. What are they going to do? Go to the garbage can and dig it out? That's setting a boundary. That is telling them, hey, if you don't pick up after yourself, this is what's going to happen. This is the consequence of happening. I've warned you about setting those boundaries. I'm tired of picking up after you. This is what's going to happen. So that's a really good example. So I think I'm going to stop there. We're going to do a part 2. This might be a part 5 or 6 video for resistance to boundaries, but I just want to take it step by step with you guys. I would love to hear comments below to get your thoughts. Like and subscribe and share, and I will see you in the next video.